This is Studio Shangri-La podcast. And I'm back again with a new topic. And that is health plus evolution. And today, meaning personal evolution. Detox your life. Reclaim your mind. To free your mind, what does that mean? It means to clear it out from artificial stressors that can cloud or restrict one's thinking and otherwise prevent one from doing what one wants to do and functioning at a high or higher level. And that can prevent one from experiencing enjoyment. If there are a lot of artificial stressors or worries floating around, then it can be difficult to be in the now, enjoying everyday life. And of course, it's not all on the individual. A lot of the ideas about what one should want and should do and how one should act and the activities that one engages in, a lot of those come from society and the surrounding culture and influences and the environment in which you grow up in and then find yourself in later on. Now, a lot of these things can have positive influences, but let's be real. The culture in the USA has been somewhat maxed out on artificial stressors. That's my take on things. Of course, this is me speaking from my pocket personal universe. And I've decided that some things that are considered culturally important are actually somewhat artificial. Or they can be modified to be more open-minded, more open-ended, and more evolved beyond having to be in fight or flight mode all the time, or having to be in competition all the time, or having to be obligated to keep up certain appearances. And I suppose there can be some costs or side effects to this. I'll give you a personal example that I decided that something that was toxic culturally is alcohol and drinking. and what it does to people, how it makes people act, and most of all, the detrimental effects it has on people's health. Those were all enough reasons to make me stop drinking a long while back. No regrets there. But there is still a very much an alcohol based social culture still at large that I no longer relate to and I no longer engage in. And has it had an impact on my social life? Yes, it has. But the greater effects are more positive in that my health is more excellent, and I'm being real. I'm not engaging in false interactions. It makes it easier for me to be authentic. I mean, the list goes on endlessly for me there. The benefits of not being under that toxic influence. And I know that a lot of people would perhaps disagree, but it's tough to argue with the fact that alcohol is a toxin. And at the level that most people take it in, it's not good for you. So, that's an example of me detoxing my life from that destructive so-called partying, so-called recreational culture, right? To me, it's a prime example of toxic, which is why I'm bringing it up. Something that is socially acceptable and encouraged, but that is actually quite bad for you and others. Um, this is a great example of a detox your life measure. That you have this, as I was just saying, I'm just going to restate for clarity. You have this element of society that is encouraged and staged as something good, but that is actually quite bad for you. And the cognitive dissonance is that it is presented and marketed and dramatized in the media as something alluring and appealing when it is actually quite awful. It's the upside down. So, to sum things up here a little bit, where can you or one identify the upside downs in one's life? Like, wait a minute. What? Why am I doing this thing? Or why am I around such and such that is not good for me, or that is not giving back to me? I feel like this is a pretty big issue right now. That one doesn't want to be a jerk, but if elements or people are being jerks to you with no sign of remorse or change, the best thing one can do, aside from stating the case, if there's no change, you gotta get out. In order to detox your life and reclaim your mind from those unnecessary stressors. Because when we do this, our minds become so much more powerful as they're intended to be. When you can remove or minimize conflict and introduce more peace, you open yourself up to greater levels of intelligence. You open yourself up to cosmic mind, which is what I've talked about in previous episodes, most notably maximizing human regenerative processes. That was, I think, part 3, the human circuit. Anyway, if you can free up your mind from these traumas and micro traumas, you open yourself up to worlds of possibility. Now, I'm not saying this is an easy thing to do, and it's not an easy process, but it is definitely worthwhile. And the more you practice this awareness, the easier it gets to identify what's worth it to you and what isn't. There's an increasing amount of physiological evidence, and this is also a hot topic, that a person's mind, a person's brain, that has been subject to chronic stress or trauma has been definitely hindered and even damaged. Not because the person is not inherently intelligent, but because of the surrounding environmental circumstances, the societal or social circumstances. And the cases of this are, of course, quite varied. The nature of the trauma that, or stress, chronic stress that a person has gone through, of course, that's a wide spectrum of experiences, but it all comes down to being caught in high alert or fight or flight, in a state of anxiety. Now, the good news about this is that a person can completely heal from this and enhance their mental capacity by quite a bit. By how much? I guess history and evolution will show. But the point is that if you're working together with your body's self, there's no limit to what you can achieve. That you don't have to heed the limited beliefs that you may be surrounded with. And we get hit up with a lot of this in the US media. I mean, I'm just being real. Can you find positivity and inspiration? Yes, but you can also find a very limited narratives as well. And so, given that, it's important, very important, to practice discernment. What are your values? What are the things that you make you feel good, happy, and productive? Or maybe there's times where you just want to relax and chill. You know, listen to the last episode I recorded about living a timeless existence. There have to be times when you just chill and you're not stressed on high alert or high octane. I mean, you have to flow like the human circuit sometimes. Sometimes you have to recharge your batteries. Free your mind. Of course, it's a choice. And it's always requiring modification, modulation. Oh, I'm going to modulate to this set of focus over here rather than that because that one over there is not feeling so good. Let's shift it on over here to something that is feeling good because that is what we want to perpetuate, right? I should think so. The enjoyment of life. And if you think you want to perpetuate the not so feeling good stuff, it's an illusion. It's a bad habit. So when you free your mind from artificial stressors or you learn how, you can. I'm not saying that it's perfect all the time. Many times you have to check in with self-awareness and be like, okay, that's not such a productive line of thinking, or constructive, I should say. That's not going to lead to anywhere good or feeling good. So part of freeing your mind is not just having it be woo, open, yay. It's learning how to check in with yourself and exercise discernment. You know, such as, well, maybe person X, Y, and Z is trying to start something with me. Is it really worth it? No. I'm just gonna check out and go do that over there. I mean, that's a very general example. Peace is the revolution, it seems. It's a nice one. It's a nice revolution. Detoxing your life. When you walk away from certain things and certain behaviors, it means that you're no longer accepting it. And that's how things change. When the toxic elements in our society are no longer getting the attention when people are doing different things, that's when things change. Like, no, I'm not going to accept, say, a rate of pay that is not even close to the cost of living in the area, for example, right? I'm not going to accept that because it's not just and it's not fair. I mean, these hypothetical examples, that's a very general one which I feel that is relatable. Or the upside down relationships, say, where, hey, we're supposed to be friends. Why are you speaking doubt to my dreams? Or why are you trying to insult me or belittle? That's another one of the social cultural upside downs that I don't understand, that a lot of people are stuck in this backwards interactions with bullying or the like, or people thinking that teaching or coaching or motivation has to be bullying. Like, it's an upside down. And for me in my life, it's not something that I'm going to put up with because it's against my beliefs. If I see that there's an asynchronous thing going on that doesn't make me feel good and that doesn't really have or seem to want to have a recourse to want to change, or even worse, has a manipulative angle, well, in that kind of situation, you just have to leave it over there. You keep it on your side, right? Um, Sometimes you can improve a situation, sometimes you can negotiate, but when it crosses over into being a detriment to oneself, that's when it becomes the toxic. You don't have to. Here's another big one. You don't have to crucify yourself in order to make a point. You don't have to self-sacrifice to the point of detriment, in other words, and or compromise to one's health. The healthy narrative here has to go outside um, outdated narratives about martyrdom. That's my feeling. Or having to give all the time. You have to consider, who is the one saying that? Or the party saying that? And what is there really to gain from that? A certain party might gain power from running a narrative like that. But by perpetuating it, they're also engaged in that. And is that what we really want as a society? I don't think so. I think narratives are trending more towards things like self care. I remember reading a book by Ayn Rand in which she was talking about, oh, yes, it was the Romantic Manifesto. in which she was talking about a certain virtue of selfishness. In other words, in taking care of oneself and one's highest potential. Of course, some people misunderstand this and take it to extremes, like, oh, you don't care about people at all and you're just being selfish and hoarding or whatnot. No, that's not what it's about. Someone genuinely needs help, needs a solid, that's one thing. But on the other side of things, if by going along with or lowering yourself in a way to toxic behaviors, you, in a way, perpetuate it. And that is definitely something to look out for. Now, again, I should reiterate, and I am very aware of this, that these are my opinions and this is my outlook, and every person can, as they choose, craft their own personal gospel, if you will, or manifesto, or way of being. The things that I say here are what I've noticed help me become the most content and free in my humanity. That there are certain narratives that I just have to ignore because I find them too restricting. And there are certain situations and people, perhaps, that can be tough to identify as such, but nevertheless, have to be minimized, because at the end of the day, one's life is one's own. We're put here to live and to have the human experience as best we can and have our minds experience the cosmic possibilities. Now, if the mind is clouded with all these trifling things that cause a lot of stress and even imaginary stress, then the way I see it, we have to get free so we can truly experience the grandiosity of all that is around us and is within us. It's not an easy process, but it is a worthwhile one to detox your life and reclaim your mind in order to free your mind to be able to do whatever you want to do, because you totally can. This has been Studio Shangri-La Podcast. Thanks for listening.